Why is Mutagenic Spa so broken in Stellaris 4.0, and what can the developers do to fix it? That's what this video is going to be about. So, for many of you who've been watching my videos, there's currently a lot of updates in the Stellaris 4.0 system. One of those updates comes to the Mutagenic Spas. In Stellaris, you can choose 2 civics for your faction, your empire, your race, whatever you want to call it. A third, as you get into the game, you can choose a third later on. But right now, Mutagenic Spas is one of these civics that you can choose for your empire. By default, and before the 4.0 update, what it did was it gave you more population growth at the cost of happiness and habitability. Now that penalty, do keep this in mind, that penalty changes based on what type of faction you are playing. So, if you're playing a megacorp, you get the same penalty, but if you're playing robots, all it does is increase your amenities usage. If you're playing a hive, all it does is reduce your habitability. Now, let's keep this in mind. Just keep that there's different penalties, right? As I started to play and tried to use Mutagenic Spas, I noticed that it was quite difficult for me when I was playing a normal empire, and the numbers weren't quite adding up. They were much higher than I'd been used to. In fact, so much higher that the numbers seemed absurd. Here I am, a mere 17 years into the game, and Mutagenic Spas on its own is giving me 86% population growth. Now, for those of you who maybe don't play Stellaris, your total population growth with a build that focuses a lot on population growth might be 60 to 70% at this point in the game. 86% from exactly one source is a lot of population growth. More than I think I've ever really seen this early in the game. So it was very odd to me. But I also had a negative 33% happiness penalty, which kind of rendered my empire unplayable. So I shelved Mutagenic Spas for now because I couldn't quite figure out what was causing it to go haywire. In a later game, I then decided to play a normal empire of non-body snatching people, and I used the permutation pools, which is the hive version of Mutagenic Spas. Now, the hive version of Mutagenic Spas was giving me, later in the game, this is year 88, it was giving me some numbers that seemed large. How large? In fact, it was giving me 324% population growth at the cost of 121% habitability. For those who don't know or don't play Stellaris, your habitability typically sits around 100%. Now, if you go biological ascension, if you do a lot of technologies, you can probably get that up a little bit more, but you can see here, even on a hive world. Now, hive worlds, as a hive, you terraform planets into hive worlds. Hive worlds should have outrageously high habitability. Despite that, I've got this all the way down to 81% out of a possible 200% because I went mutagenic, but that's a lot of penalties right there. And I started to think to myself, okay, well, what's causing this? I don't really understand this. This is way more than I'm used to in previous systems. Why is this going so crazy? Now, what should be worth mentioning before I go through and tell you guys why this is happening, when we go over here to our dear robots, they have hyper lubrication basin. Now, this one gives you the same outrageous amounts of population growth, but it only increases amenities. Now, we did mention that hives reduce their habitability and biologicals reduce their happiness, so then why is this amenities usage really not that big a deal? Well, see, the problem is amenities give you up to plus 20% happiness. Let me zoom in for you guys right here. Amenities give you up to plus 20% happiness and down to negative 50% happiness. There's actually a cap. If your race is using 9 gobillion amenities on a planet, the most penalty they can take is negative 50%. Now, you did see in-game previously that my biological empire, my non-robot empire, was already at negative 33% happiness 18 years into the game. So the robot version of this is not even overpowered. In fact, it's quite game-breaking. See, what happiness does in Stellaris is it reduces the stability of the planet. Happiness on its own doesn't tend to do anything, actually. All it does is reduce the stability of the planet. So if you use other elements to increase the stability of the planet, you can bypass the fact that this is giving you a limited penalty and keep your planet stable while getting absolutely bonkers amount of, population growth. Now, what exactly happened here, okay? Why is this happening? Well, let me go here real quick. For those of you who want to feel bad for the Stellaris developers, I do want you to know this is what the Stellaris developers have to do. Here's the Stellaris folder, and I have done all this. Here's the common. When they want to know what's making something overpowered, they need to go through all these files and figure it out. Now, this can take quite some time. Didn't take long for me, but I know how to go through some keywords. Now, when I went to the specialist job for the healthcare worker and the mutagenic spa attendant, can I zoom in here for you guys? You can see right here, for those of you guys who maybe don't understand code, this is doing nothing, actually. The mutagenic spa worker is actually not doing anything. Down here, we can see that we actually get genomic researchers give us society research. But genomic workers don't give us anything. In fact, all they do is take consumer goods. And that's weird. If I was a Stellaris developer and I was trying to figure out what's causing this to be so overpowered, I wouldn't know, because in the specialist job folder, they don't actually have anything. But of course, there was one thing that I did notice. We have this thing here, healthcare is genomic researcher trigger. You have to use that. So you have to find out, okay, well, what exactly is that doing? So of course we go into common and we find out, I thought I saved that. There we go, copy it once again. Let's try that a second time. We go here and we go into this folder and we go healthcare is genomic trigger. And, oops, sorry. Once we look into that, we have to find every single file. What exactly is that doing? What is healthcare is genomic researcher trigger? Well, that opens up a second file, which I already have over here, which gives us the this symbol here. Of course, erratas this out so it doesn't do anything. Triggered planet modifier. Potential. Healthcare is mutagenic trigger. Yes. Okay, so if we have this, our planet gets logistic growth multiplier, pop environmental tolerance, pop happiness, and then it multiplies this by planet underscore value toxic attendant growth. Okay. And this is why I kind of start feeling bad for Stellaris developers. If you didn't make this, this could start getting really frustrating. Okay, so we know it's doing these modifiers, at least for biologicals, but why is the multiplier not here? Well, I don't know. So of course you have to go back into the file, and now we need to search the entire comments folder and go, okay, so we've got planet value toxic attendant growth. We need to look through all these. Which one is it? I already got it over here. So then we need to go over here and we can see toxic attendant growth. Okay, so its base is 1 and then it adds 1 to it based on all these things. What are all these things? Well, obviously these are urban districts. For those of you guys who know how mutagenic works, these are urban districts. So we're adding 1 for each urban district. Now, this doesn't seem so broken, right? Okay, so we're multiplying this by like 20, 30. No, actually, see, okay, herein lies the problem. In a roundabout way, we finally come to the conclusion here. The problem is when the developers added in the job swapping system, we of course ran into the problem that you can have more than one person being a mutagenic spa attendant. You can have a lot of people being mutagenic spa attendants. In the old system, it would just multiply that effect based on the amount of districts you built. So for example, here we have 30. I have 30 districts built, so it's that number in the file times 30. But now it's times 30 and then also times by the amount of genomic drones, because the genomic drones now count as the healthcare workers who now count as the mutagenic spa attendants. So we take that number and we times it by 4. Yeah, that's right. It's 4 times higher than it was in the past, but actually it's more than that even, because workforce efficiency then also increases that number even higher. And this can start getting really absurd on robots and other people who can apply direct workforce efficiency to that stuff. So we actually have 5.22 times the intended number. So a late game spa attendant was not supposed to get 324% monthly organic pop growth multiplier. They were supposed to get a fifth of that. They were not supposed to get negative 121% habitability. They were supposed to get a fifth of that. But here we are. And unfortunately, it appears the poor Stellaris developers didn't know how to navigate through 3 different files to figure out what exactly was going to happen, and now we're in a world where you can reach absolutely game-breaking amounts of population growth. So that's it for this video. That's all I have to say. That's why mutagenic is so broken right now. That's why it's a pretty common and picked thing. As for the Stellaris developers, yeah, this is a rough life for you. So that's the video. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, everybody. And as always, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Oh, make sure to like and subscribe. I always forget to say that. Make sure to like and subscribe, and then have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye, everybody.